Imagine a man who has been in and out of relationships for years. He has dated women his age and younger, but somehow still feels there is something missing. It is not about beauty, because beauty fades for everyone. It is not about wealth, because money alone does not glue two people together. What he is craving is connection, a kind of connection that makes him feel understood in a way he cannot quite explain. And more often than people think, he finds that connection in a woman who is older than him. But here's the thing, it does not happen by accident. There are certain emotional codes that unlock this bond and pull him in. These codes are not tricks. They are not manipulation. They are rooted in real human needs, backed by years of psychological observation and relationship studies. If you understand them, you will understand why some men develop a deep and lasting attraction to an older woman. The first step in getting a man to feel deeply connected is recognizing the problem he often faces. Men today are surrounded by noise, social media, constant dating options, quick swipes on apps, and a culture that moves fast. Many men feel women are trying to impress them with looks, or by mirroring what they think he wants. But rarely does a man meet someone who makes him feel safe enough to drop the act and speak without fear of judgment. This is where the first emotional code appears. An older woman often listens differently, not with the intent to reply quickly or to compete, but to understand. And research from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that active listening increases trust and emotional closeness more than physical attraction in early stages of dating. When a man feels he can talk to you about what is really on his mind, and you do not dismiss it or rush to correct him, his brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. This is not an opinion. This is a chemical reaction that can make him link comfort and safety to you. But there is also another problem. Many younger women, often without realizing it, can get caught up in proving their worth by demanding constant validation. That puts pressure on the man to play the role of a rescuer or constant cheerleader. Over time, it can feel exhausting. The second emotional code is removing that pressure. Older women often carry a sense of self that is not dependent on a man's constant approval. This allows her to give without the hidden need to get something back every single time. Men pick up on this quickly. In a case study by a Chicago-based relationship counselor, 30 out of 38 male clients said they felt more relaxed and authentic when dating older women because they did not feel like they had to keep performing to hold their interest. The relief of not being trapped in a performance role makes room for real attraction to grow. Another obstacle men face is feeling like they cannot share their vulnerabilities. Society has trained many men to hide weaknesses, but a bond becomes stronger when both sides can share the truth. The third emotional code is the ability to handle a man's vulnerability without seeing him as less of a man. This is not about fixing his problems. It is about allowing him to speak about them without shame. A study published by the American Psychological Association showed that men who feel emotionally supported by their partner during times of stress are significantly more likely to report long-term relationship satisfaction. Older women often understand this because they have lived through enough life events to know that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but of trust. When a man experiences that with you, he feels seen in a way few people have ever allowed him to feel. Let's be clear. Attraction is not only about comfort, it also comes from a sense of challenge. Not challenge in a hostile way, but in the form of mental stimulation. This leads us to the fourth emotional code. Older women often have broader life experience, which means they can bring new perspectives into a man's world. She might introduce him to ideas, books, or ways of thinking he has never considered. She might challenge his opinions without trying to belittle him. Research from Harvard University found that intellectual stimulation is one of the top 3 predictors of sustained sexual attraction in long-term relationships. When a man feels his mind is alive around you, his attraction is reinforced because his brain links you to growth and excitement. Still, there is another layer that cannot be ignored. Men often feel drained in relationships where emotional energy is scattered and unpredictable. Constant drama and instability can create exhaustion rather than passion. The 5th emotional code is emotional steadiness. This does not mean you never feel strong emotions. It means you do not let temporary frustrations destroy the connection you have built. In a longitudinal study that tracked couples over 12 years, researchers found that relationships with lower emotional volatility had a much higher rate of satisfaction and longevity. Older women often score higher here because they have practiced handling their own emotions without making the other person the target every time. A man senses this stability, and it makes him more willing to invest his heart. We cannot ignore the reality that men, like women, want to feel desired. But here is where many relationships break down. When desire is expressed only physically, it can fade quickly. The 6th emotional code is making a man feel wanted for more than his looks, income, or status. This means noticing the small things he does, appreciating his effort, and letting him know he matters beyond his ability to provide. In a survey conducted by a dating research firm with over 500 male participants, more than 70% said the most attractive quality in a partner was feeling valued for who they are, not just what they can do. Older women often communicate this more clearly because they have seen through the illusions of superficial attraction and understand the deeper layers that make a man feel truly important. Finally, there is the 7th emotional code, and it may be the most powerful. It is the ability to inspire a man to be his best without demanding it in a controlling way. This is not about nagging or setting conditions for love. It is about living in a way that naturally encourages him to step up. Psychologists call this modeling behavior. When you live with purpose, keep your standards for yourself, and make progress in your own life, a man who is emotionally connected to you will often rise to match that energy. A case review from a therapist who worked with over 200 couples showed that when one partner modeled personal growth without demanding the other follow, the other partner often began to change voluntarily within 6 months. This works because it triggers intrinsic motivation rather than external pressure. When these 7 emotional codes come together, they create a powerful mix that a man cannot easily walk away from. It is not magic. It is the result of meeting deep human needs that often go unmet in modern relationships. Listening without judgment, removing the pressure of constant validation, accepting vulnerability, offering mental stimulation, providing emotional steadiness, valuing him beyond what he provides, inspiring his growth through your own example. These are not theories. They are patterns backed by research, case studies, and thousands of real relationships. They work because they align with how the human brain bonds and maintains attraction. The problem is that many women, regardless of age, do not know these codes exist. They rely on surface-level attraction, believing that if the initial spark is strong enough, the relationship will last. But sparks without fuel fade. The fuel comes from emotional depth. Men might be drawn initially to looks, but they stay for the way they feel in your presence. They stay for the safety, the growth, the inspiration, and the respect. And when a man meets an older woman who embodies these codes, he feels something rare in his dating history. He feels both challenged and safe, desired and respected, supported yet free. This is why you see men leave relationships that looked perfect on paper to be with someone older who may not fit the conventional image people expect. It is why you see men defend these relationships passionately, even when others do not understand. Because to him, it is not about the age difference. It is about the experience of being fully seen, fully valued, and fully alive. That is the magnetic pull. And that is why these emotional codes matter more than any dating advice that focuses only on appearance or superficial charm. The truth is, you do not have to change who you are to apply these codes. They are not about pretending to be someone else. They are about tuning into what already works in strong human bonds. You can start by practicing active listening, which means holding back the urge to respond instantly, and instead making sure you have truly understood what he meant. You can let go of needing him to constantly reassure you, because that freedom makes space for real connection. You can allow his vulnerability without rushing to fix it or making it about your own feelings. You can bring new ideas into the conversation instead of staying in familiar topics. You can hold steady when emotions run high instead of letting them break the connection. You can notice and appreciate his efforts in ways that make him feel seen. And you can keep growing yourself so that he sees you as a partner in progress, not someone waiting for him to lead all the time. When you apply these steps, you will find that the right kind of man responds in ways that go beyond what you expected. He will open up more. He will trust more. He will invest more of himself into you because you are meeting the needs he rarely talks about, but always feels. And the beauty of it is that these codes not only attract men, they also create healthier, more satisfying relationships for both sides. They keep the connection alive long after the initial excitement fades. So the next time you hear someone say that men only go for younger women, remember that reality is much more layered. Many men crave something deeper, and when they find it in an older woman, they do not just fall in love. They stay in love, not because of age, not because of status, but because of the emotional codes that made them feel more alive, more respected, and more understood than they ever have before. It makes you pause for a moment. Because if everything we just talked about is true, then the heart of the matter might be something most people completely overlook. What if the real reason he loves you has nothing to do with age at all? Think about it. We live in a culture that is obsessed with numbers, how old someone is, how many years apart a couple might be. People throw around assumptions as if those numbers define the entire story. But to him, those numbers are background noise. The connection he feels is not about the candles on your last birthday cake. It is about the way you make him feel when you are together. The age is just a fact on paper. The love is built on something else entirely. When you strip away the labels, you see the truth more clearly. He is not drawn to you because you are older. He is drawn to you because you bring qualities into his life that make him feel alive, valued, and safe. And those qualities just happen to be more common in women who have lived longer and learned more from life. But if he could find them in someone his own age, he would still feel the pull. It is the substance, not the statistic. He feels the weight of your attention when you listen to him. He feels the relief of not having to constantly prove himself. He feels the respect in the way you handle his flaws and vulnerabilities. And none of those things require a number to exist. The truth is, love rarely follows a neat formula. People try to explain it by pointing to surface-level traits. She is older, He is younger. She has more life experience. He likes that. But under the surface, there's a deeper story. His attraction may have started with curiosity. Maybe he wondered what it would be like to be with someone who has walked through more of life. But curiosity alone does not keep a man's heart invested. What keeps him is the consistency of how you make him feel. When you remove the fear of judgment, when you spark his mind, when you steady his emotions without controlling him, you create something he cannot easily replace. That is not about age. That is about emotional chemistry. Men often do not talk about it openly, but they are drawn to people who help them feel more like themselves. Not a version they have to create to please others. Not a mask they put on for social situations, but their unfiltered self. And when they find someone who allows that self to breathe, the bond deepens in ways that defy easy explanation. For many men, that person happens to be older, because experience often teaches patience and understanding. But if you remove the age factor, the core of the connection remains. It is built on trust. It is built on emotional safety. It is built on the sense that with you, he can stop performing and start being. It is easy to get caught up in the narrative that age is the main factor. People outside your relationship might make it the headline, but inside your relationship, you both know it is only part of the setting, not the whole story. The real story is the way he looks at you after a long day, knowing he can talk about what is on his mind without walking on eggshells. It is the way you can share a conversation that challenges him without turning into an argument. It is the way you can sit in silence without it feeling like something is missing. These are the things he loves, and they have nothing to do with counting years. There is a quiet strength in understanding that the real bond you share is not dependent on something you cannot control. Age changes every year. Looks change every year. But the emotional patterns you create together can last a lifetime if you both keep showing up for them. That is why some relationships thrive, even when the world around them is skeptical. People looking in from the outside focus on the numbers. People living inside the connection focus on the feeling. And feelings, when built on solid ground, are far harder to shake than any social opinion. It also explains why, in some cases, men will continue to love an older partner even as the age gap becomes less relevant over time. In the beginning, people might notice the difference more, but years later, when both of you have grown together, that number no longer stands out. What remains is the history you have built, the private language of shared jokes, the trust that was tested and passed, the knowledge that you are with someone who knows you in ways others do not. These are the anchors of love. They are not tied to birth dates. They are tied to choices, actions, and emotional patterns. There is also a misconception that men who love older women are looking for someone to guide them like a mentor. While guidance might be part of the appeal at first, it is rarely what sustains the love. A man does not stay because you are his teacher. He stays because you are his partner. The dynamic shifts from one of curiosity to one of balance. He brings his strengths. You bring yours. And together, you create something that feels complete. That completeness is not about filling an age gap. It is about meeting each other where you are and moving forward together. In this light, the question becomes even more important. What if the real reason he loves you has nothing to do with age at all? Because once you accept that, you realize you have far more control over the health of your relationship than you might have thought. You cannot change how old you are, but you can choose to keep listening deeply. You can choose to keep valuing him for who he is. You can choose to keep sparking his mind and offering steadiness in a chaotic world. You can choose to keep living in a way that inspires him without forcing him. These choices are available to anyone, regardless of age. When a man feels those choices consistently, he stops thinking about why the relationship works and simply knows that it does. He may even forget the age gap exists in day-to-day life, because it becomes irrelevant to the bond you share. What matters is the rhythm you create together, the way you handle conflict without tearing each other down, the way you celebrate wins without making it a competition, the way you stand together when life throws challenges in your path. Those are the moments that define love far more than a number ever could. And perhaps that is the most liberating truth of all. If the real reason he loves you is not tied to your age, then it means your connection is built on something unshakable. It means the foundation is emotional, not situational. Situations can change. Circumstances can change. But an emotional foundation, once built, can withstand those changes. That is why some couples grow stronger over decades, while others fade quickly. The difference is whether the relationship is built on unchanging traits or temporary ones. So while the world may keep talking about age, you can smile quietly to yourself, knowing the real reason runs deeper. He loves you because you have created a space where he feels free, valued, challenged, and inspired. He loves you because your connection makes him better without making him feel controlled. He loves you because being with you feels like being home, and none of that can be measured in years.